China, thousands of years ago. Oh, come on! Okay, so this hairstyle, the queue, was a Manchurian tradition and was mandated for all men during the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty started 400 years ago. What is this thousands of years bullshit? This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Watching this trailer was how I realized that most people know very little about the history of China. Their perception of ancient China is colored by kung fu movies and, unfortunately, racist propaganda. I can't say I blame them. Videos about Chinese history often focus solely on historical events. The aesthetic and thematic aspects are usually left out. To an outsider, Chinese period films might as well be Middle-earth fantasies. This is why I'm making this video, to help you recognize each Chinese dynasty by movie sets, costumes, and story themes, like most Chinese people do. This, however, will not be a study of historical accuracies. Instead, it will be a study of cultural perception and representation of ancient China in pop culture. For this purpose, I'll be showing mostly popular and mainstream films that you'll likely watch. TV shows are not off the table, but not the focus. If you are already watching Chinese TV shows, then you are already fairly familiar with Chinese culture. You likely don't need this video. With all of that out of the way, here are the cinematic themes and visuals of ancient China. China's first dynasty is said to be the Xia dynasty, despite archaeological evidence of its existence has never been found. Documentation of this dynasty all came from later periods. The Xia dynasty is, as it stands, a myth. That perfectly sums up the perception of this primordial era. When talking about the Xia dynasty and its successor, the Shang dynasty, history and mythology are treated as one and the same. Records of these two dynasties are pretty spotty. Writers of later periods saw opportunities to write "Here be dragons" in the middle of these gaps. That is how Investiture of the Gods was made. Investiture of the Gods, a 16th century Chinese novel, details the war that toppled the Shang dynasty. But it was not your average war. It was an epic fought by gods, monsters, and humans alike. The conflict concludes with humanity establishing the next dynasty, while the gods establish the court of heaven. It is mythologized history. Being one of the most influential stories in China, this book is a big reason why Xia and Shang was seen as so fantastical. Visually, the Shang dynasty is informed by the bronze artifacts we found. These strolling patterns and animal faces are both iconic. Filmmakers love to plaster them onto everything. Armors, screen doors, even the freaking floor. Mythological embellishment is also fairly common. Stuff like ancient advanced tech and megastructures allure to lost knowledge and primordial magic. League of Gods used copious amount of gold to signal a mythical level of glamour. The movie also sucks ass, so let's move on. In short, this is the mythical period of ancient China, when distinctions between gods and humans had not yet been made. That's the aesthetic of the Xia dynasty and the Shang dynasty. Have you ever thought of leaving a written record of yourself? Diaries, blogs, portfolios, even your movie reviews? Yes, we all have social media these days, but Vine went down, TikTok got banned, and Twitter is called X.com. We all know you don't want to type X into the address bar. That's why you should take matters into your own hands and make a website with Squarespace. With Squarespace, you can decide on every detail in your own website, including the domain. The new Fluid engine is intuitive and easy to use, allowing flexibility not offered by social media. You can post pictures, host videos, even do online commerce. Doesn't matter what you put on your website, it will belong only to you. Even if you want to withdraw everything, Squarespace offers a convenient way to export everything. Start a free trial at squarespace.com/accentlesscinema. Use the code accentlesscinema and you can get 10% off your first purchase. Write, draw, and show your work to the world. Visit squarespace.com/accentlesscinema and start a website today. Continuing the pre-imperial era, we have the Zhou dynasty. Instead of a centralized government, Zhou had a feudal system in which the king granted power to various lords, who in turn ruled the land and served the king. It worked at first. After a series of natural disasters, rebellions, foreign invasions, and the king being a dumbass, the Western Zhou fell. When the royals relocated east and started Eastern Zhou, the king had largely become a ceremonial position. The lords now held all the power, splitting China into hundreds of smaller states. Thus, China entered the spring and autumn period and later the Warring States period, a 500-plus year-long era in which hundreds of lords waged war against each other. It was amidst this chaotic yet diverse age when the 100 schools of thought emerged, an era when many philosophers established the fundamental philosophies of Chinese culture. Confucius began teaching a system of ethics based on prescribed relational responsibilities that would become Confucianism later down the line. Taoism also emerged as an influential philosophy, focuses on harmony with the way of the universe. The school of the military studied the strategy and the ethics of warfare. That was how the art of war came to be. These schools of thought, along with many others, would define Chinese culture for the next several millennia. For the above reasons, movies set in this period generally focus on the philosophy and morality of war. This is contrasted against Three Kingdoms movies, which prefer strategies, politics, and heroics. Visually, due to the absolute chaos of the era, there are not many strong aesthetic choices that are instantly recognizable by untrained eyes. Personally, I recognize this dynasty by the shape of the bronze swords. The variety of coins used by different states were also very iconic. I especially love these. But really, the most iconic thing about the Zhou dynasty is the philosophy. If you see a wise man in a time ravaged by war, when soldiers fight with bronze weapons, chances are it's the Zhou dynasty. As the Warring States period progressed, the numerous small states coalesced into 7 big ones. At the time, each state had its own writing system, currency, weights, and measurements. Came 221 BC, the state of Qin would conquer all other countries in China. The king bestowed himself the title of Qin Shi Huangdi, the founding emperor of Qin. Thus, China entered the imperial age. The Qin dynasty would last an epic 15 years. Wow, that's awkward. That means aesthetically, it wouldn't be all that different from the Warring States period and the Han dynasty that followed. But its impact is so significant, we have to talk about it. To this day, the perception of Qin Shi Huang is complicated. On one hand, Qin Shi Huang was a visionary who standardized writing, currency, units of measurement, and many aspects of life across the empire. He was one of the reasons why a unified China is seen as the natural state. He unified the Chinese identity. On the other hand, he was a tyrant and a conqueror who brought peace by force, who purportedly burned books to exercise thought control. Movies set in and around the Qin dynasty would overwhelmingly focus on this enigma. The Emperor and the Assassin, as well as Hero, are both movies about assassins confronting the future emperor and thus confronting his ambition and madness. They explore the age-old question of, does the end justify the means? And rarely do they come to an agreeing conclusion. This shows China's conflicting view of him and on other Chinese ruling powers of the past and present. Visually, the Qin dynasty is often shown in black. Historically, black was the preferred color of the empire. Supposedly, the color represents water, which counters the fire element embodied by the previous Zhou dynasty. Qin Shi Huang himself wore a black imperial robe. Many noble and even peasant garments were also black. Cinematically, black is just a good color to match with the solemn yet oppressive tone of the movies. This foreboding awe is a great visual summary of China's first emperor. From a mythical era to a united China, we have covered the first 1800 years of Chinese history. With a time span like that, we have to gloss over a great deal of details. Nevertheless, you can tell things were happening and not everything was the same all the time. China was a tribe turned kingdom turned empire. It was united and broken apart multiple times. It fought foreign invaders, internal rebellions, gods, monsters, philosophers, and even a walking moral dilemma. Chinese history, like all history, is nuanced, diverse, and colorful, if you count black as a color. Of course, these are not hard and fast rules. Remember, I'm not talking about actual history. This is the popular perception of history. Movies take liberty with historical accuracies for the sake of better stories. I can only invite you to the audience, not turn you into a historian. 1800 years had passed, but our journey had just begun. Tune in next time as China would enter its first golden age, play dynasty warriors, and have not one but two cross-dressing ladies. See you next time.